Before we begin, I want to thank the organizing committee for inviting me out to kind of come talk a little bit about love. And I hope you got your bagel and your coffee and your water, because if you came in expecting a 10 o'clock talk where you can kind of nod off, this is not going to be it. After all, we're talking about love, right? And love is exciting, right? This paper on romantic love and constancy is a part of a larger paper that I talk about stability more generally. I think that it's uncontroversial that in Western romantic relationships, we have a desire for stability within our romantic relationships. Amongst other things, I take stability to involve a desire for constancy, right? As well as a desire for exclusivity, right? We have a little cartoon, right? But we can't break up. Think of all the passwords we'd have to change, right? And this is one reason, indeed, that we value or that we desire stability in our romantic relationships, right? But amongst other things, we desire things like exclusivity because of the already limited time and resources that we have. And we desire constancy, or to be loved over time, to avoid potential anxieties that might arise from worries that our partner may not love us tomorrow or next week or next year, right? Because these worries or these anxieties, when they are present, often contribute to a sense of insecurity, both with our relationship and indeed with ourselves, right? What is love? In today's talk, I'll kind of provide a broad sketch of my account of love, which I take a lot from Niko Kolodny, who tends to be Ian's interlocutor. And I join him in saying that love is a psychological state for which there are reasons, right? Love is a psychological state for which there are reasons, but more specifically, love is a kind of valuing, right? Love is a kind of valuing. Valuing X in general involves, one, being vulnerable to certain emotions regarding X, and two, believing that one has reasons both for this vulnerability to X and for actions regarding X, right? The second part is really important because I think that valuing does involve a belief that something provides one with reasons for a particular susceptibility, either it be to a relationship or to a particular person, as well as I think that valuing also involves the belief that something provides one with reasons for action regarding, let's say, a particular relationship. This leads us to a very interesting question, right? What constitutes the reasons that one has for loving X, right? And Kolodny, indeed, in his paper, Love is Valuing the Relationship, he says, one reason for questioning whether or not there are reasons for love, right? Because one good reason is that it's not clear what such reasons could be. Kolodny says that the reason that one has for loving another is the interpersonal relationship that he shares with the beloved, right? And Gabrielle Taylor endorses equality's view, where she says, well, what justifies a person in loving another is the qualities that the person has, right? On my account, I kind of wed these two accounts, and I want to sort of bring Kolodny and Gabrielle Taylor together and kind of make a conjunction. My account is sort of a conjunction of their accounts. So let's begin. Relationships. Relationships are ongoing, right? Relationships are ongoing. That is to say, if X and Y are in a relationship, this is something, their relationship is something that has persisted over time and may continue to persist over time, right? Relationships are with particular people, right? That is to say that relationships are individuated by the identities of their participants, right? Relationships are individuated by the participant identities. And relationships are historical. That is to say, if X is Y's girlfriend, then this relationship that they share depends on some fact about the past, maybe some pattern of concern or a pattern of shared activities, right? Some fact about the past between X and Y, right? What puts us us in a position to want to begin a particular relationship with a person are the qualities that they have. And Gabrielle Taylor says, well, it's uncontroversial that there are some emotions that admit to at least the following characteristics. The first is this, right? If a person experiences this emotion, then it is possible for X to articulate, even if only in a vague sense, what the emotion is about. What the emotion is about, or the object of the emotion, is indicated in sentences of the form X spies Y, or X is phi about, with, or of Y. So in less formal language, Justin fears the tiger, right? Justin fears the tiger. If I'm experiencing fear, it's possible for me to articulate, even if only in the vague sense, what this emotion is about. Namely, it's my fearing of this particular tiger. The second characteristic is this. If X feels phi and Y is the object of that emotion, then X will believe Y to have a certain set of properties or a particular property depending on what emotion is felt. X will believe that Y is harmful, that Y has done him a favor or a detriment, etc. Right? So if I'm feeling fear toward the tiger, then I will believe the tiger to have a certain set of properties or a particular property that I'm responding to. And the third characteristic is this. X will believe in most cases and will be able to articulate that Y has the determinant qualities psi, and he will believe further that he has the determinable quality phi, because it has the determinant quality psi. That is to say, if X feels the emotion towards some object Y, then X believes Y to have some determinant quality that he would normally be able to specify. I want to say something here really quickly about determinable qualities. A determinable quality is a quality that is not going to be able to tell us much about Y, because it's the type of quality that is supposed to be shared by all objects of, say, fear, right, or gratitude or anger or something like that, right? So what is love on my account? Love is simply the valuation of qualities that a person has, as well as the final valuation of a relationship from the perspective of a participant in that relationship, and a non-final, non-instrumental value of one's beloved. Now, a final value, Kolodny kind of points this out in the footnote, and I think that he's right with this. A final value is often thought about like intrinsic value, but it needn't be intrinsic value, right? I mean, some things are finally valued, but they're extrinsically valuable. Right? The example that I often use is the work of a dentist, right? So think about it like this. If there were no bad teeth, right? Either we all have very good smiles or we're all just gummy, right? Maybe elderly, right? I don't know. But there wouldn't be a need for a dentist, right? I mean, so his work wouldn't be intrinsically valuable, right? It's valuable insofar as there are teeth to fix, right? But for the dentist, his work might show up as intrinsically valuable to him. That is to say, his work provides him with reasons to continue his work, right? His work provides him with reasons to continue his work, right? But there might be a problem, right, for constancy, right? If Jane's qualities are what justify my loving her or my relationship with her, then that justification lapses as soon as she loses those qualities. Insofar as my love or my relationship is responsive to its reasons, therefore, it too ought to lapse as soon as she loses those qualities. And such a fickle attitude hardly seems like love. And in reading this, I'm like, oh boy, I mean, this is exactly what I think, and I would hope there's a way around this, right? I would really hope that there's a way around this. So, I want to talk about whether or not this is a problem for the reason-responsive account of love. I think that whether or not it is a problem for the reason-responsive account of love depends on what we're looking for in regards to constancy, right? I'll start here with this quote from Shakespeare, Sonnet 116, as Ian also mentioned in his presentation. Love is not which alters when alteration it finds, right? And there's an implicit belief here by Shakespeare. It's an implicit belief that love literally lasts forever, right? How romantic, right? How romantic. Alan Sobel, in The Structure of Love, he says that when it comes to constancy, we have a choice between two kinds of notions, right? We have a restrictive notion, which says that, look, X ought to love Y, and that love ought to last forever. And he says, or we have this more fuzzy notion, right? Where the length of time that X's emotion must last in order to count as love is kind of left open, right? But I kind of want to talk about this more restrictive notion because it seems to be the case that throughout the literature, a lot of people seem to share this Shakespearean intuition, right? That love literally lasts forever. So we arrive at this first principle of constancy. If X begins to love Y at a time T1, then X ought to love Y at all times after T1. If X's love ends, it had never been love. That's to say, I mean, in less formal language, if I fall in love with a partner, right? If I fall in love with a partner, we break up, and I, later on claim, well, I no longer love her in this sort of romantic way or whatever. The person who endorses this principle will say, aha, right? I knew it, you never loved her, right? You never loved her. But I don't know, this notion seems to me overwhelmingly strict, right? This notion seems overwhelmingly strict, and it's not immediately clear to me that this is what we have in mind when we are thinking about constancy, right? And like I said, that this portion, this paper is a portion of a larger paper where I talk about both constancy and exclusivity. And if this notion of constancy is correct, it would seem to undermine the desire for exclusivity. What do I have in mind here? How the hell does this undermine a desire for exclusivity, right? Well, let's put it like this. Here's an example. Suppose that I love Danielle. At some point, I stop loving Danielle and now love Jasmine. But herein lies the problem. If the conditions for this strict notion of constancy hold, I now love two people romantically, right? Remember that if at any time the love for Danielle ceases, even after the dissipation of our romantic relationship, I never loved her, right? Thus, intuitively, the exclusivity of my newfound love for Jasmine ought to be called into question, right? It might be said that this is a ploy to sort of salvage some theoretical consistency, right, between constancy and exclusivity, and that I'm ignoring some descriptive fact about love, that no, as a descriptive matter of fact, love does last forever, right? Now, my interlocutor might have something in mind here, two things in mind. The first thing I'll say is this. What they might have in mind is that, let's say there are two modes of let's say that there are at least two modes of loving, right? Romantic and agape. What my interlocutor might have in mind is that once, let's say, agapic love begins, right? Even if over the course of the relationship that I have with this person, I come to love her in a romantic way, they might want to simply say, well, no, all that this strict notion of constancy has in mind is that the love stay there, even if it's not in a romantic mode. That is to say, after we break up, I must still love her in some sort of agapic sense, right? Which doesn't seem to really be problematic. Which causes me to sort of rework this notion of constancy a little bit, to kind of make it more of a problem, right? If X begins to love Y romantically at a time T1, then X ought to love Y romantically at all times after T1. If X's romantic love ends, then it had never been love. And then here in this version of constancy, I kind of added here the word romantically, so we can kind of accommodate that mode shift. Still, I think that this also runs into problems for exclusivity. And if we can just recall the example between Danielle and Jasmine, even if I were in love with Danielle romantically, stopped loving her romantically, got into a relationship with Jasmine and started loving her romantically, they're going to want to say that either I love two people, right, currently, or that I never loved Danielle romantically at all. And that just doesn't seem right to me. But I think that there's a way in which we can understand constancy that accommodates our desire for exclusivity, our desire for stability, and that is this. I suggest this principle of constancy, and that is that a person X ought to love a person Y for as long as he values the relationship with Y, or the lovable qualities found valuable by X are still had by Y, or perceived by X to still be had by Y. Now, this notion of constancy doesn't require us to continue to love our partners should they go drastic changes, right? Moreover, it doesn't require us to continue loving our partners if the relationship kind of deteriorates into turmoil. That was kind of like my idea. That was kind of the point that I wanted to sort of make in this particular paper. And this kind of eases the worry about exclusivity, because it's okay for me to fall in love with a person, and should our relationship become unvaluable, or should this person undergo drastic changes, I can still say properly, right, that I loved her, right? So now Jasmine doesn't really have to worry about, you know, my not being exclusive with her, even if I said that I used to love Danielle, right? And I think that this really does capture something important about how we go about our romantic relationships. But yeah, so what I wanted to do in this paper was really try to propose a principle of constancy that was consistent with our desires for exclusivity, and thereby consistent with our desires for stability, or exclusivity, yeah, and stability. And that's really all I have. I was pulling from Niko Kolodny, Love is Value in Relationship, The Structure of Love, Alan Sobel, as well as Gabrielle Taylor. And I'm on all of the little social crap, so if you want to do that, you can. But other than that, I think that I'm ready to take a little bit of Q&A, and we can kind of get the ball rolling, you know?